In this video, we're going to look at place value. So we're going to title our notes, place value. Now, with place value, we've already learned previously about our whole numbers. So we've learned about our ones, tens, hundreds. This side over here means we have a whole thing. Then in fourth grade, we branched into, we went from our wholes in place value and added our parts. So as we begin, we need to remember there are wholes. That means I have the entire thing and sometimes even more than one. I could have 10. I could have 100. Then this decimal right here, this point, this symbol, tells us that now we're going to include not just the whole things, but we're also going to include parts. So I can take these whole things, and the first thing I could do is I could break them into what we call tenths. If I broke my tenth into 10 more pieces, I've now broken that whole thing into hundredths. And in today's lesson, we're going to take a look at this. After this video, I will do another video taking it even farther on our place value chart. But we're going to really focus right now on this part of our place value chart. So let's go ahead and put our notes aside for a minute and let's look at our models. So when we look at these models right here, I can pick this up and this is one whole piece. So this is going to represent our whole number. So I can write this 1 like this. I can write it as the word 1. I can write it with a 1, then a decimal point and say I have no parts at all. So these are the different ways that I can write this whole 1 right here. Then I go to this next size right here. And this next size, it takes 10 of these to make this whole over here. So if I just take one of these out of this whole piece right here, and I look at this, this is 1 out of 10 that makes the whole. So that would be 1 out of 10 pieces. I can put that and say that is 1/10. And in word form, what I'm telling you is that is a 1/10 of this whole, because it takes 10 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to make this whole one. Then I can look at this next one over here. When we look at all these pieces together, what we see is this whole over here. But if we just take one of these out and we say, well, how many of these little pieces does it take to make this whole? It takes 100. So this is 1 out of 100 that it takes to make this whole over here. And we call that in word form hundredth. That's where this TH is super important, because that's 1 out of the 100 it takes to make this whole over here. So we call it a hundredth. We write that as 1 out of 100. So our fraction is written as a ratio, 1 out of 100. If we read that as a fraction, it would read 100th. When we put it into our decimal form, it's not the 10th, that went here. So it is our 100th. And that's why we put decimal point 0.01 when we write it. And we can see this is going to take us to our place value chart, where we have our, let's come back to our notes, where we have our whole. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to enlarge it. And I'm going to say our ones, and is our decimal point, because this ones over here is our whole numbers. Once we break it into parts, we have our tenths, because first we broke it into 10 parts, and we can see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But then this was broken further. So each of these 10 were broken into 10 more parts this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 10 times 10 is 100. So now I have 100 pieces. And this is 1 out of the 100. So that makes it our hundredths. And this is how it forms into our place value chart. Now, let's do a few examples. So now I'm going to pull from these so we can write some numbers in our place value chart. So if I said I had, this would be 1, 2, 3. What are these? These are tenths. So I put my decimal point here, and I have 3 tenths. Now, let's continue to build a number. So let's say we didn't stop there, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4. What are these? These are hundredths, because each one of these, it takes 100 of them to make my whole. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. So I put this into my hundredths place. Now, this is interesting. When I read this number, I'm going to read it into the smallest possible place. So I can see, well, that's 10 hundredths plus 10 hundredths plus 10 hundredths, 10, 20, 30. This is the same as saying 30 of the hundredths plus another 4. So I would read this number as 34 hundredths. And this right here is a decimal number because I have no wholes. I have no wholes at all, only parts, 34 hundredths. Now, let's change this number again. We're going to go ahead and put these back so we can start again. And we're going to start this time with a whole number. So I'm going to say I have this one whole. I'm going to add another one to it. So now I have 1, 2. I have 2 wholes, 2 ones. And I'm going to add some decimals to this number. So now what I'm going to do is say, let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 2 wholes and 4 tenths. Let's add some hundredths to our number. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have 2 wholes and 4 tenths, and I have another 5 hundredths. And now let's read this number all together, and we say have 2 and 45 hundredths. This is called a mixed number because it's mixed with both whole numbers and decimals. Where our first number, we called this a decimal number. So this video is an introduction into using place value blocks to build numbers in a place value chart. You can watch the next video for an understanding of place value at a deeper level.